Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Mad Sports Show here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. I am Mike Mayer, joined by my friends, my boys, Andrew Marks and Danny Udelf. Another week, gentlemen. Good to see y'all. All across the country, really, because we got Andrew over there in Oklahoma, we got Danny in Seattle. So we're just all over the West Coast. I'm here in LA. So, boys, we've got to start talking about the NBA. The NBA season started. Like, hey, like, we got the World Series coming up on Friday. We've got and then we're leading the show with basketball because the season started, and I'll get to one of the main reasons. But first of all, since we're recording this on Wednesday night, second night of the NBA season. You guys are both Mavs fans. I am a Cavs fan. You guys went to the NBA Finals. Let's start off with this first off before we get to like some like overriding predictions. Your guys' feel for the Mavs coming off of that finals appearance last year and where they're at coming into this season. Andrew, why don't you go first here?
Well, as a fan, I'm very excited. I mean, this is the deepest Mavs team I think I've seen in quite some time. I think this might be even deeper than the 2011 championship team. It's from top to bottom, just very versatile, and love to see what Derek Lively's going to do in year two. He's got like defensive player of the year potential. I could see him at some point taking over the starting job for Gafford if he doesn't already open the season as a starter. So Klay Thompson, I think, is going to have so many open looks. Luca and Kyrie are going to feed him the ball. He's probably going to get left alone at times, and he's going to do what Derrick Jones Jr. tried his best at, but sometimes came up short, was hit open shots at a very consistent basis. So the Mavs offense is going to be very good. The defense is going to be above average to very good, and it really just comes down to health. And if Jason Kidd cannot be a dumbass, so I'm expecting at least, I'll say, 52 wins. The years of winning 60, 65, like we used to have with Dirk. He had 50 every year, but he had a couple of years that were, higher, 67 wins, 60 a couple of times. That doesn't really happen in today's NBA. There's just too many good teams, and it's just a lot of parity. And Mavs, I see winning about 52 games, and I think they absolutely, for sure, at least make the Western Conference Finals. It's really just going to come down to Oklahoma City, Dallas, and Denver, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Andrew. I mean, I can't really add too much more than what you said. I think the Klay Thompson addition was such a massive addition for the team, and considering the team kind of surprised us last year and went all the way to the finals, and Derek Lively had just an incredible rookie season. I'm not really expecting much change. I think it's going to be an even better season. I think we finally have kind of that three-headed scoring monster that we've been waiting for quite some time now. I think. Luca and Kyrie looked fantastic, especially later in the year. And I think that addition of Klay Thompson is going to be nothing but huge for the team. I worry a little bit about the defense, but I think we have enough, good bodies on there that we can play good defense. And I just feel like this team is going to outscore most of the opponents. And I would be kind of disappointed with anything short of reaching the finals again. I do think the Mavs, as long as they're healthy all season and Jason Kidd doesn't screw anything up, I think the Mavs are pretty safely a top three team in the West, and I'd be very, very, very disappointed with anything less than a finals run.
I'm excited about the bench though. Not a lot of people have been talking about it. Najee Marshall is a dog on the defensive end. I'm excited to see him. He's kind of a slight upgrade from Derrick Jones Jr. He doesn't jump out at the gym like DJJ did, but I'm excited to see him coming over from New Orleans. And then Quentin Grimes is kind of a sneaky pickup, I feel like. He's the one that came over in the Tim Hardaway Jr. trade. And then the one who I'm very, very excited about, who I think takes a huge leap this year, is Jaden Hardy. I think he's going to be the Mavs six man. And I see him, getting us, 12, 13, 14 points a game this year. I think he might end up showing that he might be the third scorer on this team, but will be coming off the bench.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's a strong bench too. And I also have to say Quentin Grimes is a cool addition because his half brother plays for the Vancouver Canucks, my favorite hockey team. So it's kind of cool to watch the half brothers
yeah,
play for my Canucks and my Mavs. So I'm also
There
excited
you
about
go.
that.
there you go. No,
Had to mention that.
Quinn Grimes, it was a pretty good college player. I think he played at Houston. I think, yeah. So like, yeah, no, no. You guys, like, a lot of people were kind of looking. I'm glad you guys brought up the Najee Marshall thing. A lot of people were looking at it like, why didn't we re-sign DJJ? And you look at Najee Marshall's numbers when he was in New Orleans, they're like comparable, and like it maybe, and he might even be a better fit for what this roster is. And then obviously, getting the Klay Thompson thing was really like like obviously his name was there, but I felt like it didn't get as much hype as it probably should have because of Klay hasn't been like the Klay that we know. But I think with him going to this team, given what happened in the finals last year, like it just felt like it was all on the shoulders of Kyrie and Luka. And if one of those guys faltered, like it was just doom and gloom. And with a juggernaut like the Boston Celtics, with all their horses that they have, and they bring back literally their entire team, I feel pretty optimistic about you guys in the Western Conference. To your point, like a lot of the top tier Western Conference teams did not get better. Like, I mean, Phoenix is kind of the same. They made a coaching change. They're really, Andrew made a point off air about how they're basically the Brooklyn Nets in the Western Conference. They're basically the same structured roster. I mean, the Lakers, we'll talk about them. The Clippers, they opened a new building out here in LA. Kawhi Leonard, I don't know if he's ever going to play again. Like, we never know anything about him. So, and then Denver, like, who's, and the team you guys played, Minnesota makes a bid trade. Denver, like it's all Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. They lose a big piece in KCP this offseason. It's just like, why not the Mavs going back? Like, why not? So, in the West, like the West is just, especially the team that I would worry about is OKC. And you guys did beat them last year. The team I'd worry, because getting Hardenstein, getting Alex Caruso, my doppelganger. Yeah, but seriously, like those two moves made OKC fucking scary. Like that's the team that if you're a Dallas Mavs fan like you guys are, that's the one that I would really worry about. And Denver,
of course,
just because Denver's got Jokic and Jokic is just insane. Like
ultimately OKC, I think is going to be number one in the regular season again.
Right.
In the Western Conference, their depth was absolutely insane, and they're not additions, but in some ways they are. Chet and Jalen Williams and even Shea, they're going to come back better than what they were a year ago.
Right.
So like from across the board, all through their starting lineup, everyone that has gotten better, and they have so much depth that players who are damn good players in this league aren't even getting on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's insane that they just are able to trot out all these bodies, and like it's just like you have this cornerstone piece in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was, I think he was MVP runner up last year. Some people thought he should have won the MVP. Like the thought that he could get better is insane. So that'll be interesting. In terms of my team, guys, I'm optimistic about the Cavs. The problem is they didn't really make a significant change outside of head coach, but in seeing what they did, granted, they did play the Raptors on Wednesday night without RJ Barrett, and they won by like 25, 30 points. But Evan Mobley looks like he's going to be more of an offensive threat this year, and that's a good sign to see. Donovan Mitchell being back. I like this team a lot. My concern is, and we talked about this, and we can kind of get into our predictions right off of this, is just Boston's just so fucking good. They're just so good. They're so good. Like, it's just like, you got Jaylen Brown, you got Jason Tatum, Derek White's an Olympian. Chris Kristaps isn't even playing, and Al Horford still is still being a contributor in his late 30s. Like, it's insane that one of the best moves that they ever made was making Brad Stevens a GM over a head coach, because that has just morphed this roster and this team into something that is just the modern, perfect NBA basketball team. And I do think that if there was a rematch in the finals, it would be very interesting between you two. Boston is just like, I just don't know who's beating them this year. Like they go out against the Knicks last night on Tuesday night, and they beat them by 30 without even putting in much effort. And they hit like 16 threes in the first half. They were trying to get a record. The only thing that's going to stop them is if they're missing shots, because they're not going to stop shooting them.
Right.
So, guys, real quick, your predictions on this, and then we can kind of get to some other stuff here.
I mean, it's easy. I think me and Danny are on the same page. I think it's Mavs Celtics again, and it's just going to come down to Luka Doncic has got to be a grown ass man from now on. Stop complaining about the refs so much. Stop just acting like you deserve a whistle every time you go down the offensive side of the floor. He got ejected, or excuse me, he fouled out early on in a finals game last year. That kind of
Yeah.
crap can't happen. You improve the 3-point shooting this offseason, which we were missing a lot of shots in the finals. So together with Luka's maturity and us being able to knock down threes, which we weren't doing in the finals, I think the Mavs would have a hell of a lot better chance to beat the Celtics this year.
Yeah, I agree. I love parity, but I think we're getting a rematch. Honestly, I just unless someone gets injured and things go downhill for one of the two teams, I just don't see a matchup that happens besides the Celtics and Mavericks. Both teams on paper improved in the offseason. Both teams are really good. I don't really see a reason to believe that neither team is going to make it. Um, Again, it would take some sort of devastating injury to a top player, and I'm not even going to put that out there because I don't want it to be on the Mavs. So I'm going with the rematch, but hopefully this time we get the better outcome for me and Andrew.
Yeah, and hey, that prediction is no slight against OKC. They're phenomenal, and they
Right.
could very well beat the Mavs or the Nuggets or a wild card team that makes it to the conference finals. OKC and the Mavs would probably go 7. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
it could very well be them.
it was a great 6-game series last year. It was a great it was a great 6-game series this past postseason. Like it's like that those are the two teams. Like Denver can maybe fit somewhere in there. I mean, who's to say Phoenix? Like I don't know. Like, but I don't feel very optimistic about that. I'd like to think that the Cavs maybe can push and maybe go to the conference finals this year. Because the East, like, I mean, you got Philly and New York out there. But yeah, I think it's Boston and Dallas again. Like I agree with you guys. Like it's hard for me to argue with that just because a lot of the issues that face the Mavs in that series, because they were able to get to the finals in spite of a lot of the issues that popped up because that's what Boston does to you. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I think that with all the experience that they got from last year and the hunger that they got from last year, it's a big thing that Andrew pointed out. Luka has got to grow up. He has got to grow up. You cannot foul out in a finals game when you're the best player. Like that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Like you cannot foul out in that situation. So he's got to grow up.
They were just frustration fouls.
Yeah,
right?
they
weren't legit.
No, they were like ticky tack. Well, not ticky tack, but it's just like it was like a frustration foul after you couldn't get a rebound, and it's like you can't give those take fouls when you're that valuable to your team. Like when there's 6 in a game, it's just you have to understand that. Like there's a reason why the greatest players don't foul out of the game is because they know how to play without fouling.
Could you imagine how good he could be if he just had even like a smidge of like Kobe Bryant's mentality? Like, doesn't even have to be Kobe, just a really serious basketball player. And Luka is serious. He loves it so much. He thinks he should get every call. And it's just like,
right.
Don't worry about that. Next play, gotta have a short memory. Go down there and get the next one.
It's the modern style of basketball because like we'll talk about LeBron here in a second. It feels like in the modern style of basketball, all these star players are just looking at the refs like trying to get some sort of favoritism or some sort of call. It's like, guys, play the fucking game. Play the fucking game. It's just like you didn't see you didn't see fucking Michael Jordan looking to the refs. Like he probably would have wanted to punch the ref maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just like
everyone's a diva these days. It started with like the LeBron, Dwayne Wade kind of group, and it's escalated significantly to the modern superstars now. Every single one of them that's out there, for the most part, is they just all have that same mentality. Like, oh, I should get a foul. I got touched slightly.
Yeah,
everyone but Jokic, really.
Yeah. Even Jokic kind of flops a little, like to lean into stuff and flails his arms. But it's just like, it's like everybody's turned into like a fucking soccer player. It's like it's like the worst parts of soccer have rubbed off on the NBA. It's really weird. So
real quick before we move on, I do want to say I am excited about one team in the West who I think could potentially be the 4th team, and that's the Sacramento Kings. Getting DeRozan rounds out their kind of starting lineup, and I think if they could stay healthy, they'll be dangerous this year. They're not a championship contender in my eyes, but they will make some noise.
De'Aaron Fox, man, love De'Aaron Fox, man. That's a good young team, and also side note, that's one of the toughest places to play in Sacramento, Golden One Center. Like that place is like when the Kings are rolling, Sacramento rallies around that team. So like it's a young team, it's a fun team. So yeah, I agree on that one. But yeah, we all agree it's probably going to be Celtics Mavs. We'll see how the season goes. It's a long season, so we'll get through that. Wanted to touch on this before we move on because there's a reason why we started with basketball. So on Tuesday night, we got the history-making moment, guys. I'm saying that kind of with a little bit of sarcasm. We got the moment. LeBron and Bronny played together. Second quarter of this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Tuesday night. They get into the game together. It gets a huge ovation. Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. were there, which was very cliche. I mean, okay. You guys know I love LeBron. I will always be indebted to him for what he did for the Cleveland Cavaliers and winning that championship and, bringing excitement to Cleveland in terms of basketball. Because the city's just been, outside of the Cavs that one year, it's really just been, miserable.
Right.
And we'll talk about the football team later on here in the show. But what has become of LeBron really since winning that championship? Yes, they did win the COVID one, but you can debate how legitimate that was. It's whatever. Like, I don't really want to go into those. It's just become like a Hollywood movie with him. And what this was, like, granted, it is kind of cool considering we all watched LeBron when he came into the NBA 20 years ago and we were all teenagers. And now to see him with his grown son playing in the NBA is admittedly pretty cool. Yeah. But
if he was good,
that's exactly the problem. If he was good. And Bronny seems like a great kid, but he played 3 minutes in this game. Did not score a single point. This was so manufactured, it is ridiculous. And then everybody perpetuating it like this, like it's this big history-making moment. Like, that's where a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way with LeBron. And, like, I don't think it affects his legacy on the court. We all agree that LeBron's one of the greatest to ever do it. But some of this nonsense, like where all this drama and, like, building these super teams and trying to manufacture ways to get there and, like, manipulating things and effectively being a GM or a coach. It's just like all this crap. It just wore me out near the end in Cleveland because I knew he was going to leave. And then you just see all this stuff, and then you get Anthony Davis, and now here you are. You get your son in the game. It's like, Lakers won this game. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. It's like Anthony Davis went for like 36 and like it was something crazy. And we're talking about he was a monster. Anthony Davis is fucking outstanding. But we're not talking about that because LeBron always wants to be the center of the storm. And I understand on some level, hey, LeBron is still, even pushing 40, is still in phenomenal shape and is still admittedly one of the best players in the NBA. But this just did not feel anything whatsoever authentic whatsoever. It was all about, especially with the way that Bronny got drafted and, the whole Rich Paul telling people, oh, don't pick him. Like, this is, to compare it to some of those other father-son moments and have Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. in the building at the same time, it didn't sit with me, guys. Like, you guys can tee off on this. We talked about this on our last show about just how ridiculous the concept of Bronny playing. But it's just like, listen, if he was any good, this would make more sense. But the fact is, he was in there for 3 minutes, didn't score a point. Why do we care?
I don't. I mean, and to me, this isn't even the first father-son duo. We see the father-son duo every time Luka plays Devin Booker. So, I just don't care. He's not good. If he was like a legit role player, like a Avery Bradley, or I don't know who's a good defensive short guard like him. Like, other than that, like if he was actually a contributor to this team, I would eat it up. But he's not. And LeBron is a fraud because he acts like everything is, championship or bust every year. Well, your sorry ass son who can't play basketball, you're having him taking up a roster spot. The 14, 15 men on the roster don't have to be wasted roster spots. A lot of teams do that, like the Mavs re-signing Markieff Morris and not keeping AJ Lawson. Like, you don't have to do that. Occasionally, the 14, 15 guy that makes the team out of training camp turns out to be damn good. Look at Jeremy Lin with the Knicks.
Yep.
And the Lakers desperately need more depth. Like, they don't have that great of a bench. And who knows? Like, maybe there was a guy you could have signed who could be a baller for you this year. Instead, you're wasting it on a guy who wouldn't even start for a G League team. Like, and they're pretending that he's good at basketball, and like I just don't see it. The dude like misses almost every shot he takes. I mean, and in 3 minutes he was -5. I mean, so he's not. The team does nothing when he is out there because he is just a warm body, and that's it.
Mm.
Yeah, and I have to agree completely. It's just I don't know. Like I got home pretty late last night and I didn't watch anything. Then I woke up this morning and opened Facebook and like ESPN, Sports Center, everyone on Facebook just posting about LeBron and Bronny, and then like the historical aspect of it being the regular season and a father-son duo is really really cool. It's a really cool story. The problem is. Bronny's terrible at basketball. He's not his dad. He's not good at basketball. I mean, like this like little different circumstance, but it kind of reminds me of every time everyone mentions that the Gretzky brothers are the highest scoring duo in NHL history. Like Wayne Gretzky probably had like 5 career points. Like
Yeah,
it's like that's like kind of the same significance. It's like everyone mentions them when they mention the greatest brothers in NHL history. Everyone's going to mention the best father son duo of all time, which is
right.
LeBron Bronny Jr., but that's because there's no other ones. But
Yeah,
like it's like it's irrelevant. Like you can't act like Bronny's a good player, and like Andrew said, he's stealing a roster spot from someone who might actually be a decent player. And the Lakers being kind of a fringe team, probably a potential playoff team, but kind of on the cusp. Like they could have used an extra body that's not Bronny, and it's sad to see that LeBron is running this team basically and forcing his way, and he's probably going to retire within the next year or two, and they're going to be stuck with Bronny or release him, and then it's all going to be just a
He'll be gone way before then.
probably.
I mean,
So
but for instance, I mean, like Markelle Fultz is still a free agent. Would you rather have him as a third point guard or Bronny James? Like,
I mean,
if I
Markel
was a
Fultz,
Lakers fan,
yeah,
if
Markel
I was a
Fultz,
Lakers fan, I want Markelle Fultz 8 days a week.
yeah. No, and here's the thing about Markel Fultz, man. Like he was former #1 pick. He hasn't measured up to what he was supposed to be, but he's turned into actually a halfway decent role player. I would take
Yeah.
Markel Fultz all day, every single day. Yeah, it's just like I said, like you guys said, it's not so much like the moment that rubs the people the wrong way. It's how we got there and the narrative that keeps getting spun out of LeBron, like specifically LeBron, since he got to the Lakers, that it's championship or bust. It's like that's bullshit. Like, yeah, they went to the conference finals a couple years ago. They got swept. They got swept by the Nuggets.
Yep.
Like, this team is not winning a championship. They're not. They're not winning a championship. Like it hasn't been about championships for LeBron. Yes, they got the one in 2020. You can say what you want about that. He got the championship there. He's won a title with 3 different teams, which is admittedly very cool. He's one of the best to ever do it. But this just didn't feel right to me at all, especially with Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. was the #1 pick in Major League Baseball. His dad was a very good baseball player. Like that did not happen by fucking accident, okay? Like this was just so manufactured, and anybody who wants to argue about that, it's like, guys, it's not us arguing the moment. It's us arguing the fact that, hey, how we got there and how he was drafted and how he's taking up a roster spot and how his dad preaches how it's all about, winning. That's the problem. And that's why this whole thing just didn't sit right with all of us. And we were on this like 2 weeks ago, guys. Like we were on this 2 weeks ago that, hey, what the fuck are we doing here? So,
Yeah.
all right. Anyway, enough with basketball. Let's move on to football here, guys. So a couple of things that have popped up recently is there's a couple of trade rumors. One was circulating around Matthew Stafford potentially going to the Vikings, and we had a third wide receiver trade in the last week. So Amari Cooper went to Buffalo, which I could have told you guys Amari Cooper was going to get traded. Like the Browns are in the shitter. And then Devontae Adams goes to the Jets and actually ends up playing Danny Steelers twice in the span of a week. So hey, gets to join the most obvious trade there with Devontae Adams going up and joining with Aaron Rodgers. But we get a third wide receiver trade. DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, some people may have forgotten he's still in the league because he plays for Tennessee, but now he's going to the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the only undefeated team left in the NFL because Minnesota lost to Detroit this week. Your guys' thoughts on Nuke going to Kansas City? Because I feel like that even though he hasn't been himself since the Houston days and since he left Houston, this is a really good pickup because they really have been missing Rashee Rice. Travis Kelsey feels like he's still rounding into like his form, and Xavier Worthy is a rookie. So I really like this move. And then in terms of Matthew Stafford, if Minnesota makes the trade for Matthew Stafford, like I don't know why they would do it because like it's like you're kind of like in you're kind of like in with your quarterback of the future in JJ McCarthy. But Matthew Stafford going to Minnesota, that makes Minnesota very scary to me too. So Andrew, your thoughts on, these two little bits of NFL news that have kind of come through in the last couple of days?
I mean, the Chiefs are the best team in football, and they just got better. You know, good for their fans. I'm excited for you. I mean, you're probably going to win a championship 3 years in a row, so hats off. Um, as for Matthew Stafford, I ultimately don't think he goes anywhere, and nothing makes sense. Maybe other than like the Giants, because they have given up on Daniel Jones. They just haven't done anything with him yet. Um, Vikings do not make any sense to me. I mean, Darnold has got you where you are this year, one of the best teams in the NFC. And then next year, you got your quarterback of the future coming back. I mean, and Stafford has multiple years on his contract. It doesn't make sense to go to the Vikings. It's a cute little rumor, but um, financially and depth chart wise, the future, depth chart of the quarterback doesn't make any sense for Minnesota.
Yeah, and to touch on the Hopkins trade, it's a great move for Kansas City. He is still a really awesome receiver, and he's been so talented for so many years in this league. He's well past his prime. It's been 4 years since he's had a 100 reception season. He's definitely not the same player he was. He lost a step, but anything that the Chiefs can do to add another good receiver with all the injuries and everything that they've had gone on, I mean that's just a huge move for them. I mean, there's probably still a couple receivers out there that are on the trade block. It seems like, but I think that's an absolutely good pickup. Um, I'm with Andrew. I think the Chiefs are honestly going to win the Super Bowl again this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't looked as amazing as they could, as we've discussed a few times on the show. It just seems like they're primed again to win another Super Bowl. Regarding Stafford, we were talking about this a little bit before the show. He's under contract until 2027, and I don't see any fits for him right now. We have a lot of teams out there that are kind of banking on their young quarterbacks. I was kind of looking around and I'm thinking like who could work, but like Vikings have McCarthy and waiting, and Darnold is a pretty good quarterback. Broncos need QB help, but Bo Nix is a rookie still. They got to give him time to develop. Team like Atlanta has got Michael Penix Jr. coming in at some point. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks out there, and I don't really see a lot of good fits. The Giants maybe could make some sense. But I don't know who's going to commit to Stafford for the next few years with all the teams that either have established quarterbacks or have young quarterbacks that they put invested a lot of time and money into. So to me it's weird to see if he actually does get traded, and ultimately I think he's going to end up staying. But um, you know I don't see the Vikings doing pulling the trigger on it. It just after what they invested in McCarthy and where they're at right now, it doesn't make sense to me. But after the Steelers embarrass the Giants this coming Monday on Monday Night Football, maybe the Giants will pull the trigger. But after Danny Dimes gets sacked like 6 times by T.J. Watt, hopefully, maybe it'll happen. But I don't know. There's maybe one or two teams that could make some sense, but ultimately it kind of feels like the Stafford thing is just talk, and I don't think it's going to end up happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. Like, I mean, I'm out here in LA. It doesn't really fit like he also the timeline for the Rams. Like, I don't know what the Rams could really get back like right now because I understand like it's been kind of a tank season for them with Nakua going out the first week of the season. Cubs been out. They've got a game on Thursday night, but the reality is Stafford's still got something left in the tank. I like you guys said, I think this is fodder. I like in terms of Hopkins, like I think that's a great move for the Chiefs. Andrew, you were holding your hand up like
Yeah. I was just gonna say the only thing I could see is if like Zach Robinson, the OC for the Falcons, gets a job somewhere. Let's say it's New York, or I don't know, maybe Tom Brady doesn't like Antonio Pierce since he's the owner now, and gets
yes.
rid of him after 1 year. Maybe Zach Robinson goes there or something like. Obviously, he was the passing game coordinator for the Rams
Right.
at one point, so he has the relationship there with Stafford. So maybe something like that happens, and maybe the Rams position themselves to try to get Sanders or Quinn Ewers or somebody like that.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is like I think the Raiders, the Browns, the Titans, and maybe the Giants. are really like in like pole position potentially to be at the top of the draft this year in terms of because the Patriots are bad, but Drake May's their quarterback of the future. Like
Yep.
that's out of the discussion for that. All right, so let's talk about. We were going to talk about the Browns, but I want to do this for a second because we were talking about Super Bowl contenders, and we're talking about the Chiefs. My God, I hate to say it, the Ravens are scary, guys. And Andrew, you know me and Danny, we hate the Ravens. But holy shit, this team after starting 0-2 has just been steamrolling people. And a lot of it has to do with Derrick Henry. Also Lamar Jackson. But I could not have thought of a more perfect piece to add to this team than Derrick Henry. Like he is legitimately the quintessential perfect piece to this team. How could your Dallas Cowboys, with a guy who lives in Dallas, let him go there? Because he's averaging 6 yards a carry. He's like at 860 yards rushing. He's leading the NFL in rushing by like 200 yards. Like this is not fair. This is not fair. If there is one team that can screw this up in the Chiefs with the three-peat, it is the Ravens. And maybe the Lions, because the Lions look really good too. But the Ravens are scaring the living fuck out of me because, like I said, they've always had a great running game, but Derrick Henry in this system, and you've seen it over the course of the entire season, it is just not fair. Andrew,
It's not.
How could Jerry Jones let this happen?
I don't know. I ask myself every week when I see Derrick Henry bust off 81-yard runs like he did on Monday. I mean, he is a monster still in his 30s, and he's not slowing down. He's going to be around probably another 3 or 4 years. I mean, he is just incredible. He is, somebody once said this season, I don't remember who said it, it might have been Collinsworth. He is what absolute perfect genetics looks like when it meshes with work ethic. And he's phenomenal. He puts $250,000 a year into his body. He has his own personal trainers, therapists, everything, nutritionists. He is committed to his craft. He is exactly the type of player the Cowboys need, both on and off the field. And he's just a professional. And yes, when you have a running back to take the load off of your quarterback, even when your quarterback's a superstar, an MVP. I mean, look how much better Lamar's playing this year. Other than that opener against the Chiefs, where he missed Zay Flowers on a throw and then likely caught it but was out of bounds. I mean, other than that, I've had no complaints about Lamar. He's been phenomenal. He'll probably win MVP again. So Derrick Henry is helping him. And Jerry, there's nothing you could say. You're just an idiot. The entire fan base is tired of you. We wish some kind of Vince McMahon type scandal would come out on your sorry ass, and you would have to sell. Take your $10 billion and get the fuck out. That's what I feel about it. So I mean, Derrick Henry right now, his cap hit is only 5.1 million. His total cash for this year, $9 million. He's paying Ezekiel Elliott to get 3 yards a carry, $2 million. And then if he ever calls up Dalvin Cook from the practice squad, he's paying him another 2 or 3 million. So for the same amount of cap hit, you instead of getting Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook, who are both washed, you could have had the best running back statistically in the NFL right now. So Jerry is just, I have no hope. We're never going to win until he takes a dirt nap, and that just is what it is.
I love you, Andrew.
Yeah.
I'm really honest you are about your Cowboys. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, though. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how anyone let Derrick Henry get to the Ravens. I mean, it's the worst case scenario for me and Mike having to, be in the same division as Derrick Henry twice a year for each of us. And it's, I know Derrick Henry was kind of showing some signs of potential age and stuff like that going into this year, but man, he looks good, and the Ravens look great. I don't really have much to say on the Cowboys because I think Andrew said it all.
Right.
But in terms of the Ravens, I mean, they're a scary team, and it's kind of crazy. The Ravens usually are kind of known more for their defense and everything like that, but they are one of 3 teams in the NFL so far this season with over 200 points, and their offense is clicking a little bit more than their defense right now, and that's kind of terrifying because if their defense actually gets going the way that the Ravens defense typically goes, then they're a very, very scary team. And by the way, for the record, the 3 teams with 200 points so far: the Ravens, Buccaneers, and Washington Commanders, who had that on their bingo card going into the season. It's kind of a
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
fun.
yeah, the Buck, yeah, that Bucks game was bizarre game. Bizarre game on Monday Night Football. Because you had both Bucks receivers going out in that game with um, got all the best to Chris Godwin, man. Like that was horrible. That was
Let me add something to that.
yeah.
Todd Bowles, I'm 7-0 in fantasy football, large in part because of the Chris Godwin. Why the hell are your starters out there when you're down 10 with 30 seconds left in the game? You think something miraculous is going to happen? You screwed me, man. You screwed me.
Oh my God.
So,
Like no, it's just, man, like, yeah, why would you it's garbage time, man. They call it garbage time for a reason, man. Like what, especially with especially, and I knew we weren't going to talk about this, especially when Mike Evans is out of the game. Especially when Evans was not in the game for most of that. Cuz now, like, Baker Mayfield's been playing okay, but you're starting to see, like, what I kind of saw in Cleveland. It's like when he doesn't have certain weapons to throw to, like, and he's playing a good defense, like, it starts to deteriorate for him. So I feel bad for Baker too. And, like, obviously I feel bad for your fantasy team, man. Like that's just like, yeah, you just hate to see injuries like that, like, especially that late into the game. Which is a good transition because there was an awkward situation at in Cleveland with my Cleveland Browns. The nightmare is over, guys. Deshaun Watson is not playing anymore for the Cleveland Browns, but it is not what we all hoped for. We hoped that he would get benched. He tears his Achilles in the first half against the Cincinnati Bengals. And, this was one of the more uncomfortable situations that I think I've ever seen as a fan. Because there were fans cheering, and I know you guys made your opinions known. Hey, we don't care for Deshaun Watson, the person. At the same time, an injury like an Achilles tear, when you could see it as clear as day, was awful. It was awful. But let me be clear. I am in no way like saying that, hey, Deshaun Watson deserved it, or Deshaun Watson, like, I'm glad that he got hurt or anything like that. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we were all kind of hoping for the situation that he wasn't playing. So this is the whole situation that transpired on Sunday is a product of why this whole relationship and partnership with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson was just doomed to fail from the start, because you divided the fan base, you divided the locker room, you forced a coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski to change his offense for the quarterback. So I understand why some fans were like, happy to see Deshaun out of the lineup, but it wasn't because he got hurt. It's because he wasn't playing anymore. He's not playing anymore. That's the problem. But the whole situation sucks. Nobody looks good in it. The organization screwed. What is it? 172 million on the cap hit for something, and he's probably not playing another down for the Cleveland Browns. So I hated this situation. This is as uncomfortable, guys. I've been through bad seasons. This is as uncomfortable as I have been watching the Cleveland Browns play football. Their offense is bad. This is not a likable team. The quarterback sucks. Now the quarterback's hurt again. 19 games is what the Browns are going to end up getting out of him. So, like, I know you guys really, it's like, it doesn't make you feel any like worse that, like, hey, somebody got hurt in that manner, but I totally understand why people were, not exactly like, feeling sorry for him when he went down on Sunday. But I think the best thing that I can say is now we can kind of see if this thing actually works with the Cleveland Browns, because Kevin Stefanski's giving up play calling. Jameis Winston's going to start, and we'll see if this was, what I have been seeing as clear as day, as this was a Deshaun Watson issue with this team, specifically on the offensive side. And maybe this can light a fire in this team. This team's still really bad, but those are my thoughts for you guys. What did you guys think about this whole situation that transpired on Sunday?
I'm just going to kind of comment on his injury. I mean, the Browns are going to be picking in the top 5. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. And honestly, that's fine. Just start over. Put this behind you. I already told you about a month ago on this program that you need to just Watson doesn't need to play again. Even if he's healthy next year, they do the surgery on him and he recovers. He needs to just be the number 2 quarterback. Just He could be the most expensive number 2 quarterback of all time. Just never play him again, and get through this contract and just greener pastures ahead for the Cleveland Browns. That's what they need to worry about there. But the cheering of one of your own players getting hurt, man, that's just classless. I mean, I'm not going to rip into Browns fans too much. They're the most traumatized franchise in the NFL. But like, and then this guy, obviously, outside of football, he's I think it's nice to say that he's borderline a scumbag. But I mean, it's like he's
That's being
sexual.
nice. That's
Yeah,
being nice.
I mean, he's like a sexual predator for God's sakes. I mean, like, you know what I mean? So, but you just don't do that. I mean, like, it's just like when Michael Irvin injured his neck at the end of his career, and the Philadelphia Eagles fans, the game was in Philly, and they were cheering. I mean, that's just like that's right up there with that. In fact, it's probably worse because that's your quarterback on your home field, and you're
Yeah.
cheering for him to be hurt. That's just you got to be better than that, man.
Yeah, and I agree. I made some jokes to you, Mike, on Sunday, and I feel bad because I'm a very empathetic person. It sucks that he went down with an injury. I mean, it would have just been nice if they had benched him from the start and not, gotten to the point where we have to, you know, talk about this injury and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, it's great that he's gone and you don't have to deal with it anymore. It should be a breath of fresh air for the Cleveland fans. And now we get to see my boy Jameis Winston get to play some quarterback again, which I don't know why all my favorite quarterbacks always play for my rival teams, but whatever. But but yeah, no, it's a really uncomfortable and awkward position to be in. But ultimately, I mean, it really is. It's sad, but it's the best thing that could have possibly happened to Cleveland because I
Yeah.
think that's your opportunity to finally turn a corner. Also, I apologize, my desk lamp burnt out, so that's why.
I make up for all the brightness here on this side of me, like all the light, and then Danny looks like he's just in the dark. So yeah, you
My
lose
desk
it.
lamp,
You
my,
lose
my
it.
desk lamp burnt out mid show, so you get the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
fun part of it.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
now,
Danny being in darkness. I mean,
Yeah,
this
you
is
look like
it.
a ghost hunter right now.
I know, and I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
It's fitting. It's fitting. This was a very dark topic to talk about. So Danny goes dark in his room. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I hated the whole part of this situation because then the players were getting defensive, like Miles Garrett was getting defensive. There's a bunch of people just, barking at the fans, trying to say Deshaun Watson's like a model citizen. I was like, what are we talking about, guys? Like, don't try to just like, we understand that fans cheering for a guy getting hurt on a gruesome injury like an Achilles tear. And the fact that I could tell that almost immediately, like that was like you could see as clear as day that that was an Achilles rupture right away.
Yeah,
Um, it sucks for anybody to have to be subjected to that. But at the same time, when you're as a deplorable human being as Deshaun Watson and you've played as bad as he has for 19 games as a Cleveland Brown, like like I said, there's no right answer in this situation, and that's what sucks about this whole thing. And it's the product of why this was a terrible idea from jump. This was a terrible idea to invest in this guy, and it's almost fitting that this is how it ends. This is almost fitting that this is how it ends. Another Cleveland Browns quarterback on the shelf. I think we're up to what 38 or 39 in the last 25 years. The jersey gets bigger, so it's just, man. But you know what? Danny, even though he didn't want to, he wanted to fight it. Russ cooked, or I guess you could say like, they let Russ cook against the Jets on Sunday night. Man, I think that's the most points you guys have had this season, right?
it also helps that Najee Harris got a touchdown like at the very end of the game in garbage time, and
Yeah.
that did the Lambeau leap at Heinz Field, which is
The what are we calling it? The Acrisure leap or whatever the hell. We can't call it Heinz like anymore.
It's the Lambeau leap, even though it's a different stadium.
Yes, a Lambeau leap. But Danny, do you believe in Russell Wilson? Like, do you
Not
believe in
yet.
Russell Wilson?
Not yet. No. I he played very poorly in the first half of that game. He missed a lot of pretty easy passes. I don't know if you saw how much you saw of the game, but George Pickens bailed him out like 3 different times
Yeah,
on
nice little back shoulder play on a bad throw. Yeah.
really underthrown balls. Russ barely was above 50% completions. I mean, he did get it done in the second half, and the team kind of rallied and stuff. But the Jets lost both of their starting safeties in the second half. Sauce Gardner was out for a little while in that game as well. There were a lot of injuries. And again, it's against a 2-win Jets team that has an interim head coach and is a complete dysfunctional mess right now. I'll believe in Russ when I see it happen a few more times. Probably not right away after Monday Night Football because again we're playing the dysfunctional Giants next, and but then the meat of our schedule is coming up soon. So if Russ can cook like this for about 3 or 4 weeks, I think I'll feel a little bit better. But to me, this was just one game. Najee Harris had one of his best games of the season. He hit the century mark again. George Pickens had probably his best game of the season, and he bailed out Russ, like I said, like probably 3 different times. The receivers really played really well. And Russ was a lot better in the second half, but I'm still just not 100% on board. I will say, I think ultimately seeing that versus seeing some of Justin Fields' games, Russ probably gives us a little bit of a better chance to win overall, just because he is able to hit those deep passes and kind of spread out the field a little bit more. But Justin Fields is very lethal on his feet. So, I would love to see Arthur Smith get kind of creative and use some sort of package where both of them can be on the field at the same time. And I think there's a lot more opportunity to use both of them at the same time. And I know that's kind of a rare thing to see two quarterbacks on the field at once, but with what we have with Justin Fields being as mobile as he is and Russ having as good of an arm as he does, I think there's opportunity. But I will say I was fairly impressed later on in the game, but I don't know if I fully believe in him just yet.
My takeaway from this game was how cool your special teams coordinator is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
But no, I missed like 3 quarters of this game, so like I didn't have much of an eye test for Russ. So I was kind of surprised they took Fields off the as the starter. I mean, he's right now, I guess, your quarterback of the future. So it's I would have just kept playing him. I mean, even with Russ or no Russ, I mean, Steelers aren't winning the Super Bowl this year, so what's the point? Just roll with the young guy who gave you some wins this year already. So, but glad the Steelers finally scored some points. Arthur Smith doesn't have much creativity in him, so I'm sorry to burst your bubble there, Danny. But I roast that guy almost every show. I don't know, I'm just not a fan. So yeah, I mean, good win for the Steelers. Jets are just a complete mess, and that was fun to watch. So
yes, Jets. The best part of the whole thing is that the Jets are just like, and now Aaron Rodgers is to the point of he's blaming the media. It's like, yeah, you got the coach fired one week, you got your star receiver the next week, and here we are. You're 2-5. You fired the coach. It's like nothing changed. Nothing. We talked about Robert Saleh the last. Like nothing has changed. Tell me one thing that has changed about the New York Jets since they made that coaching change. Nothing. Their defense has gotten worse.
Garrett Wilson also got worse.
Garrett Wilson has forgotten how to play wide receiver.
Garrett Wilson had a horrific game.
Like, man, it's just like, geez. But back to what Andrew was saying about, I didn't think Justin Fields did anything to lose the job, which is why I was surprised. Which is why I was surprised they made the move. That being said, you could see why they made the decision to go to Russell Wilson because they were pushing the ball a lot more down the field. Granted, Russell was missing a lot of throws, and like you said, George Pickens was bailing some underthrows from Russ out of the way. Like that was one of those things, but you could see why they made the move to at least open up the offense a little bit more. But like I said, I didn't think there was any reason to really had they lost, doing it off of a loss would have made more sense. And I understand Justin Fields' stats have not been blowing people away, but he hasn't really done anything to lose them games. That was my issue with the whole thing is why would you go there? I understand that Russ was supposed to be your starter before the season, but why make the move now? I mean, you're a 4-2, and you're not losing games.
And to that point, Mike, also our 2 losses were both by 3 points, and I ripped apart Tomlin because he made really bad coaching decisions in those 2 games. I mean, we really could have beaten both the Colts and the Cowboys, if not for some, typical Tomlinism. So sorry to chime in there, but this team actually legitimately could have been 7-0 right now, and
right.
It's not like the team's been bad. They shouldn't have taken the job away from Fields.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Go back to Matthew Stafford. Would you rather have Justin Fields or Russell Wilson this year or next year, or would you rather take a chance on Matthew Stafford if he
Ooh.
actually is available? I would
I
make that trade.
honestly,
I would make that trade
I don't.
easily.
I don't really. I think Russ is older and kind of more on the end of his career than Stafford, and I still am not 100% sold on Fields being a true NFL starter. I would do that in a heartbeat if the trade was reasonable enough.
I actually think Stafford's been in the league longer. I feel like, but at the same time, Stafford just doesn't play like he's older.
Yeah,
He doesn't play and like he could still like I'll say this like we didn't really talk. I didn't really mention this when we did talk about Stafford. Matt Stafford is honest to God one of the more underappreciated players in the NFL. Like that
Yes.
guy is tough as shit,
yeah.
and I'm so glad that he got to win the Super Bowl with the Rams because like, and it's really, you know what's insane about the whole thing is that trade between with him and Jared Goff swapping places has done wonders for both teams, which is very rarely happens in any trade. Like that has been a win for both teams. Like they may
Yep.
both get a Super Bowl out of it because Dan Campbell is rolling with that. That Lions team is really good. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have an opportunity to get Matt Stafford, I think that's a perfect option for.
I
And
mean, if he
hundred
actually truly is available, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
there's no way the Steelers go for it right now. That's not the Steelers' MO, and I think they feel pretty good about the two quarterbacks they have right now. But Stafford on the Steelers would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, because that adds a different dimension to your offense. All right, real quick here. I'm not going to ask you guys for a prediction because we didn't go over this, and I know I'm just going to ask: will you watch the World Series? Will you watch the World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees, which is admittedly going to be very cool to see two of the high-powered offenses, two of the historic franchises in baseball go at it in the World Series for the first time in like 30 years. Like this will New York and LA will be amazing. But I totally understand knowing you too, given these are the two of the highest payrolls in baseball, that this could rub a lot of people the wrong way. So will you guys watch? And if you do have a prediction, fire away.
I don't have a problem with high payrolls. I think like the Dodgers are really fun to watch. So are the Yankees with the superstars they have. That actually excites me. There was nothing exciting about the Rangers having to play the Diamondbacks last year.
Yes,
Like,
that was a bad series.
yes, like it's just like
You wanted
I
the
think this.
if you had the Phillies, like
Yeah,
that would have been a really fun series. But hey, you
but
got a
but
championship.
yeah, but at the same time, I was very grateful we got to play the Diamondbacks. We got our first World Series. Pretty easily actually too. So no, I'm excited about this, but I'm not going to watch 9 innings for 6 7 games, Mike. I'm a kind of guy that when my team's not in it in baseball, it's too slow of a sport. I know it's sped up since these rule changes with the pitch clock and whatnot, but I'll probably catch an inning or two of every game, and that's really truly about it. And I'll say Dodgers in 7.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andrew. You guys know I used to be kind of more of a diehard baseball fan, and over the last maybe 5 6 years, I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit more and more each year progressively. Um, Baseball, for whatever reason, just hasn't excited me as much since that 2015 season when the Blue Jays made it far and the Jose Bautista bat flip. That was a fun year, and that was the most energized I've been in baseball playoffs in history. Sorry, Andrew. Uh, but I don't know. I've gotten away from the sport. I don't like a lot of the rule changes, and I find the season is just too long and too boring.
Yeah.
I like going to games, but I can't watch it on TV. I've watched I think maybe a total combined maybe like 15 to 20 innings of baseball all season between some random games that have been on TV or whatever, just when I've been in the area. But I honestly couldn't even name half the players that are even playing in the World Series right now. I probably will maybe tune in for a couple innings here and there, but that's about it. And I hate both teams. So
I knew Danny's interest. He said, "Yeah, I hope it goes to game 8 because that game 8 doesn't exist or something like that."
having grown up in Los Angeles, I really hate the Dodgers because I find Dodgers fans to be some of the most obnoxious out there, and I've always just hated the Yankees. But weirdly enough, I probably am slightly forced to cheer for the Yankees in this one. I
Mm.
can't I can't stand the Dodgers, and I can't stand the Dodgers fans. I'm sorry to any of my friends that are watching that are Dodgers fans.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm not. I'll say
I'm
Yankees.
I'm more excited about free agency than I am this series though.
That's
And this
fair.
has this is the most star-studded World Series in quite some time.
You've got Ohtani, you've got Judge, you've got Stanton, you've got
Soto,
you've got Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Like
Ooh.
the star power in this series is insane. Like this is everything that baseball wanted. But on my end, I'm still a little bit butthurt about this too, because I'm still trying to pull the dagger out of my heart that Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto planted in it after one of the most incredible wins that I've ever witnessed in my life in Game 3 with the John Kenzie Noel and, the David Fry home runs. I thought that the Guardians had a chance to honestly, make this interesting, but the Yankees are just so effing good. It's a modern day Bronx Bombers team. Like, I'm looking forward to this series. I've actually gotten my sister into baseball, which is weird because it's maybe the most boring sport, but I'll definitely watch the series. I think I favor the Dodgers a little bit more in this thing, but I could see it going either way. I'm probably more interested in this than you guys are, but I totally understand why. It's just like, because when your team's not in it, it's like, I'm just the type of guy, it's the World Series. Like, even when my team's not in it, I still took a little bit of an interest in the Rangers and Diamondbacks, even if the Diamondbacks had a bunch of people I had never heard of up until outside of Corbin Carroll. Like, that was the only player I'd heard of on their team. And like,
Yeah.
So
there's too many players in baseball. Anyway, Yankees in 7, by the way.
All right. I got Dodgers in 7. It like I said, it should be a fun series just to see, like, glorified all-star teams playing. That being said, we've got to do something about baseball where, like, I understand that there's a lot of parity in it where you can get a team like the Diamondbacks, but this is the year where it's like you got 2 payrolls that are just astronomical. Like you've got Ohtani's getting paid $700 million. Dodgers have like a $300 million payroll. The Yankees have a $300 million payroll. It's the 2 biggest markets in baseball. It's like, that's kind of what
salary cap.
Yes, we've been we've clamored for salary caps all over the place. And what's insane is baseball hasn't had one, and yet they've probably had more parity in it than just about any other sport, maybe outside of hockey. Yeah, it's usually the teams that always spend the most money that seemingly are winning.
Unless it's the Los Angeles Angels.
Yes.
So.
Which is just what a train wreck that is. And then you let
Shohei
Ohtani go.
Cursed.
Yes, and then you let Shohei Ohtani go across town, and he goes out and has a historic fucking season. Yeah,
yes.
great job, Artie Moreno. And on that, we're gonna end it here, boys. Always great chatting with you. This is always fun. We'll be back next week. A lot more great topics, a lot more great discussion. Thanks for watching. Follow Andrew A.S. Marks. Follow Danny on Facebook because he does not have a Twitter. Follow me at Off the Mic 28 or OT Mike Sports. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys real soon. See you guys. Bye.